The dust has settled on Town's relegation to League One, so it's time for us to pick up some of our summer content. And alongside me to do that, I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, hope your summer started well, mate.
There's some exciting news on the horizon, so we've been led to believe. So could get better.
Absolutely, indeed. So, yeah, we'll cover everything that's happened since that fateful day at West Brom right after this intro. Hello, everyone. Welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category in the Football Content Awards. Our show is still in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions, and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned prior to the intro, I've got Jimbo alongside me. We've had a month or so to sort of dissect everything that happened last season and see some of the news that's come out, the release list, the news on Friday about the revamp to the recruitment department, one or two transfer rumours, and plenty else, and a pre-season schedule as well, which we're all going to cover over the next 45 minutes to an hour or so. But before we do that, we need your help, guys.
Yep, that's right. Everyone that's watched our podcast, thank you very much over the 2 seasons that we've done it on video. And thank you to all those people that still listen on audio 8 seasons in, you lucky, lucky devils. But we've got something important to share. Yeah, as many of you know, we record this video podcast in the basement of the Barber Club in Hightown. And it's run by our good friend Ben, and we've had a great time here. Unfortunately, that time, through no fault of anyone here or upstairs, is coming to an end. And that's because the landlord of this here building has decided to put the lease of it up by 41%, not 4.1, 41%. And unfortunately, that type of greed means it's no more for the Barber Club. Most importantly, because that's the business upstairs, they're going to have to leave this place, and as a result also, so are we. So we're putting a call out to you out there, really. We need a little bit of help. We need a new home. So if you've got a space, anything really, a back office, a shed, a warehouse, half a room, a corner of something, or just a solid lead to help us find a new place, then we'll be all ears. So if you have something like that, we'd love to hear from you. So yeah, this podcast we're very proud of. We've built it from the ground up. We're very proud that it's the longest running Luton Town podcast. We've got an award there that we're also very proud of. And very recently we reached 500,000 views on YouTube. Thank you very much to all you. We're very proud of that. 500,000 views is for us two just talking about the thing we love to talk about is fantastic. And many more of you have been with us longer on the audio podcast as well. Thank you very much. It all helps. So if you've got a lead or anything or anywhere or anyone that may be able to help us find a new home, if you could drop us a message either on social media or on the trust email. We'll put all the details in the show notes. But anyway, on with the show.
Just before we start with all the football stuff and things, ahead of the new season, we are looking to get the podcast sponsored as well. Costs are rising with regards to producing podcasts and things like that. So we do have sponsorship opportunities. If you have a company that you own, or you know of a company that would like to sponsor the podcast, get in touch with us and we'll be in touch. You can email us, media, media, at lutontownsupporterstrust.com, or just look in the show notes for all of the other ways to get in touch.
Yeah, and the show will go on. There will be a season 9. Have no doubt about that. We just need to find a new home. So hopefully you out there in listening and watching world can do what you do best.
Yep, thanks very much for that. Okay, let's go on to the football then. Jimbo, we're recording this Saturday morning, and we were enjoying our summer, really, weren't we? Well, not so much on Friday because it was piddling down, but um, some news broke. Been rumoured, I think it's fair to say, that
Finally, some news broke.
absolutely, that Mark Tracy was going to be the new head of recruitment. That's been spoken about for a while. Well known at the club, worked at the club in the academy a decade or so ago for 6 months or so. I believe he's a Town fan as well. Comes from Lincoln, and he's the new head of recruitment. And we've got a little bit of a sort of shift around elsewhere in that department, which has to be a positive thing, doesn't it? I mean, this is okay, the transfer window is now open, but the bulk of the transfer window will open in sort of a week or so's time. And we want to, we want some good signings. So we've got Yusuf Sajjad, who is heading up the department. We've now got Jay Sokchik as the player recruitment manager. And they're obviously under the chief scout of Mark Tracy. And Mick's got a new sort of ambassadorial role, really. Obviously, he's had his health problems recently. I suspect that that's sort of impacted on the amount of time that he can give to the position that he was in. But we want Mick around. You don't have expertise like Mick and sort of shun it away, do you? So he's gone to an ambassadorial and a sort of scouting role, and it all sounds quite positive.
It does. I mean, in lieu of the fact that we haven't actually made any signings yet, which I think people are getting a bit antsy about, and I can understand why. And I think that is sort of getting the ducks in the row, really, as a complete sort of reshuffle to, you know, reframe everything. I'm quite pleased that they've got Jay Sochik there, and they've given him I assume, an improved role, because I think he'll be a man that's well in demand. His data analysis skills, and they've got to try and keep hold of him and utilize him as best they can, which seems to be what they're doing. It's all they've referenced the fact that data informed or something like that, isn't it? Not data led. It's not complete Moneyball or anything, which I think is the right way. But they're going to have to, as they always used to have to, find some gems, because we're now in the third tier. So yeah, on that front, yeah, really good, really positive news. I think that it's good that you've got Mick Harford still around. Is there a better ambassador for Luton Town Football Club anywhere? There's not going to be, is there? So he's going to be that, and possibly still out on the road looking for players in the old-fashioned way. So that's good. And I think now it's just, I know fans want to see some action, don't they, in the transfer window, which is fair enough, because you see other clubs doing the business already. They've got players in. We're not yet, as we sit here a week since the transfer window opened, and other players of other clubs, particularly people might look at Plymouth, who have got 3 or 4 players in already, albeit with the caveat that they probably expected they were going down longer than Luton. I mean, it only became apparent to us at half time at the Hawthorns that we were probably going down it. So there may be a caveat there, really, I would say. But all in all, hopefully that's the foundation, and then they've teased us with it's going to be an exciting transfer window. So we all hope so.
Yeah, there's no reason to doubt that, is there? I mean, they told us that they were going to be aggressive in January. People doubted it. The longer it went on, people doubted it more. But to be fair, as we always do on this podcast, judge at the end rather than at the start. And by the end of that January transfer window, there could be no criticism of the work that was done. And I suspect that that's going to be the case this summer.
My hope, and I've got no inside info on this, is that the rumor and the news about Mark Tracy broke nearly 2 weeks ago as we sit here. My hope is that as soon as that news broke, he was in the building and doing the business, and they've only just announced it. So they've had 2 weeks to get this show on the road, you know what I mean?
But even if he wasn't, the other people that were mentioned have been in the building. They've still been doing the work. It's not like they've literally just come in on Friday and, they'll have been planning for the summer transfer window as soon as the January one ended and things like that. We have to be kind of patient a little bit here, because people do need holidays, and I know that there've been a lot of people within the club who've been on holiday late May, early June. It's half term. It's a good time for Matt, who's got kids in particular, to be away, and he'll probably have an input in all of this as well. And usually, transfers don't really start happening till the middle of June. It just so happens that they opened it for 10 days because of the Club World Cup that starts this weekend. So that might have caught people off guard. The other thing I would say, generally only free transfers that are being done at the moment. So maybe that's an indication that we're not going to go down the free transfer route too much this summer, and we're actually going to spend the money that people want us to spend, not necessarily lavish amounts like a Birmingham, but enough to complement the squad rather than go back last summer where the first three people in the room were in the building were free transfers, uh, got us off on a bad foot. I think they're learning. There's certainly
Yeah.
evidence that they're learning.
Yeah, I think there's probably two strands to that argument, isn't there? If there is a good free transfer, there's no reason not to get him. But I think the ship has quite sailed away from the harbour on the front where Luton need to scrimp and save now. They need to go out and, well, this is the perception anyway, isn't it, amongst the fan base? They need to go out and like splash the cash as they did in January and buy the players that they want to get them up, because essentially, and this is what I'm gathering from views online, both and in person and in the pub. And one fella even gave me a little shout out from a window when I was walking down Lee Grave High Street the other week, which was a shock to the bloke I was walking in front of. I didn't know him, but all of that stuff sort of leads you to believe that people won't accept anything else than automatic promotion push or a promotion push, which is what I think we said in the Roundup podcast after the the nightmare of West Brom. And I make them right, and so do the bookies, because in the last couple of weeks, the bookies have made Luton favourites, and so that tells you everything, really.
It does. Yep. Yeah, listen, look, I don't think anyone wants to be in League One for too long, do we? We've got a new stadium on the horizon. The football club don't want to be in League One when that comes along. And they're making changes to the backroom staff to work accordingly with that. Another announcement that came out, Jimbo, came out maybe not as quickly as people were expecting it to, but these things do take time again, was the released list. Would imagine most people's immediate thoughts were there wasn't as many names on there as people would want, but in a way that's a good thing because it means that lots of players are under contract, whereas we've quite regularly gone through the leagues having to sort out a load of contracts at the end of a season, and in the likes of Gabe Osho and one or two others, we failed to agree terms with them, and they've moved on. This time, we didn't have that problem, and as luck would have it, we actually want to shift some of the ones that are under contract that we could have done with being out of contract. But Amari'i Bell's left. Come on to him in a minute. Pelly-Ruddock and Panzu has officially left the building now. Obviously, we'll come on to him too. Others to leave the building: Tim Krul didn't play a single minute of football last season. This season, where are we? Where are we with it?
Haven't
Season
seen him. Haven't seen him.
Season just gone anyway. Didn't play a single minute of football. He's also left the building. That was an obvious one, wasn't it? Tim Krul. It just probably did serve a purpose, but that purpose is not those wages in League One.
Yeah, I mean, the goalkeeper situation is the one I think people are least worried about now, because they've offered that extra year's contract trigger on Jack Walton's deal. He's back. He will be back in the building. He's not going to, by the look of it, going to be going anywhere near Dundee again. He done very well for them. A hell of a lot of saves in their championship title promotion winning season. Same again in the Premiership. I think that if there's not a battle for the number one jersey, I'd be very surprised, particularly with the rumours around Thomas Kaminski leaving. And I think that's probably, that'd be the right move. They've got that one sorted. So everybody sees James Shea as a man that can more than adequately be the backup. Certainly in this division. Last time he was in this division, he was the Golden Glove winner. So there's no qualms there. I think that's the right one.
Yeah, another goalkeeper left in Jameson Horlick, which I was a little bit surprised at because I was led to believe he was quite highly rated. I don't know if they couldn't deal with a contract situation or whatever. Victor Moses left. He'd left long before that was announced. Josh Bowler's gone back to Forest. We're not going to see him again. That's pretty obvious. We wasted 6 months of his career. And Cal Naismith has gone back to Bristol City, although I don't think you need to be an optician to read between these lines to know that we're going to see him in a Luton shirt again.
Pretty much nailed on that Cal Naismith's going to be a Luton player again, isn't it? We just wait for the official announcement. I think that's the right move. He wants to be at the club. He hopefully he'll get more game time than he did at the Hawthorns when he looked decidedly angry about that situation. But it's a no-brainer for me. He's a quality footballer, and yeah, his age is advanced, but gonna need some experience, because you got rid of Amari'i, who's an experienced player. Got rid of Pelly, both of whom still at the club until the end of June, but pretty much gone. Um, and I think that's a sensible move to get somebody in who can provide captain-like qualities, and almost I would want, my own personal view is, if he's going to be a full-time Luton player, that he's the captain. Because it's just my preference. I prefer a midfielder or a defender to be a captain and not a striker like Carlton Morris. And I think maybe if Carlton Morris is still here, that might free Carlton Morris up to concentrate on the thing that he's supposed to be doing, which is scoring goals. And that would be a good solution for me.
Yep. Yeah, fair enough. He would need to be in the team regularly, though, wouldn't he, Naismith? But you would imagine that would be the case. We'll come back to the long-serving ones that have left in a minute, because they do deserve more than a few words. We've extended the contract. You mentioned Jack Wharton for another year. That's good. He's come back with a huge blossomed reputation at Dundee United. Just got them into Europe, having got them promoted in his first season. But the big one that we gave a year extension to was Liam Walsh, who he was one of those who could probably easily hold his own in the Championship. So the fact that we've got him tied down for another year in League One, in the centre of that midfield, he really thrived the longer that Matt was here last season. Okay, I know we had that silly thing with the Coventry sending off, which was just unfortunate. He didn't do anything, as was proven by the fact that it got rescinded. But he is the kind of player that in League One, where we're probably going to dominate more of the ball than what we have done in our older days, that we want in our team.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I think that he was one of the standout performers in that 10-game run where Matt Bloomfield got a tune out of the team, and suddenly we were the third most informed team in the division behind the two teams that got automatically promoted. So, yeah, that's fantastic for me. And obviously, it kind of proves those words. His actions have proved them anyway, but those words that he said after the two sending offs, where he wanted to essentially prove himself to Luton, then I think that would. There's no question in my mind that it'd be a top player in League One, and yeah, I do kind of feel that they need some muscle almost in the midfield, but there's not as much of a problem for me in the midfield if the players that we've got we keep.
Indeed, we'll come on to potential outs in a minute. Corley Woodrow, Tom Holmes, Jaden Luca, and Arabin Peppel have all come back from their loan deals. Dion Pereira has been released. Of that quartet, Corley Woodrow will probably go when he, age-wise, can probably still get himself a Championship deal somewhere along the line. If he left us for Blackburn last season, you would imagine there's somewhere in the Championship for him. Holmes, Luca, and Peppel probably not, though. But Peppel's the sort of interesting one, isn't he? Because scored goals for Chesterfield this season, having scored goals for Southend prior to that. We are lacking a striker at the moment. May well be that there are strikers on the horizon that are coming in. Maybe one down the road that we'll revisit again, having visited it in January. And there was all sorts of rumours that done the rounds earlier in the week that we were looking at someone from Charlotte FC over in the MLS as well, a striker, and had a bid turned down for him, Patrick Adjiman. But Peppel will have the chance to prove his worth in pre-season, won't he? So it'll be interesting to see if he's at that level. If the Town's height and him coming up from the bottom, if we've kind of met in the middle now.
Yeah, I mean, this is the season for him to prove it, isn't it? It was interesting. He did a podcast for a Southend podcast, because they love him there. And he said that he knew when he came over from Canada, the Canadian Premier League, that he was told it would take a couple of years for him to get up to speed. So this would be that time now, wouldn't it? And now that, like you say, that his position, his playing time in the National League and then bumped up to Chesterfield in League Two, and Luton getting demoted, it kind of it brings them closer together. And this is a big pre-season for him, isn't it? Listen, I'm not saying he's going to be the answer or the main striker or anything, but you're not going to see Elijah Adebayo, if at all, or not until the very last knockings of the season. And then you've just got Carlton Morris there as a sort of main striker, number 9, if you like. This is what I imagine he is. We have to see. I've never actually seen him play, so apart from other teams, but not in Hatter shirt. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting summer. But he seems confident that he's going to come back and have a word with Matt Bloomfield and see where that fits in. And essentially, we'll see, won't we?
Yep, big season for a lot of people, actually. It's not just in the league this season. We've got the Virtue Trophy and all the other cups that go with it. So we're going to have to use an awful lot of players this season, I would imagine.
I want just youth to be played in those competitions. It now more than any time, really, because there's some good youth players, really good youth players, and some of them they've kept. Josh Phillips, I'm sure, we'll have a little word about. If you're talking about that meeting in the middle of coming down from the top 2 divisions and the youth team getting a chance, then that Virtu whatever Johnson's paid, let's call it that competition and the League Cup for sure is ideal breeding ground for those players to play, and that's what I'd want to see.
Yeah, me too. Although I do still believe that there is that rule that you have to field so many players from the previous game in the Virtue Trophy. If that's changed, then well, happy days. You mentioned Josh Phillips. It's like you're reading my running order here. Signed a new deal earlier this week. It was mentioned in the release list that they were in discussions with him. That's a good thing, isn't it? It shows. Well, not only does it show that we can still retain our top talent even though we've been relegated, because he is a top talent, it also shows everyone else in the academy that there is a pathway right the way through here, because there are some really good players in that academy, and I don't think Josh Phillips is the only one that we're going to see this season, even if it is only in the Virtue Trophy. Every time I see that academy, all of the academy sides actually see their results and things. They're scoring lots of goals, they're winning lots of matches, and they're collecting trophies, and that can only be a good thing. Phillips is heading that up. We've seen him in the first team, albeit briefly, at Bristol City last season. In 3 minutes, he did what no one else did in 87 that day. So it's good that we've got him on board, and you can kind of see him being a player that could blossom into a Matt Bloomfield side. He'll probably not get into the team immediately because Millie Ali will probably be the forward on the left based on how well he done towards the end of the season. But it's good that he's there providing competition for Millie Ali, and who knows, maybe the Johnston Paint Trophy, as we'll probably call it all season, breeds a new Hatter star.
Yeah, but him particularly, I know he's been in and around the first team squad and got those minutes, a couple of minutes, but you've got to start somewhere. And he won't be the only one, will he? Because they've recalled Ali Lynch as well the last few games of the season, striker that highly rated, and they've got Taylor and Harris that's been around in that age bracket for a while, and a number of other players that they've retained. Who some of them won silverware last season. Very good academy setup we've got going, and we've just got to get them now into the first team on a more regular basis, and this might be the opportunity.
Yeah, if something has come out of the relegation, then the fact that the first team and the academy are slightly closer together and allowing us to bring our own players through may well help that. We're probably going to lose a few players this summer, aren't we? So we may need to sort of look to our academy for that. The 2 long servants that have left then, start with Amari'i Bell, 4 years of brilliant service, playoff run, promotion, Premier League season. And okay, last season didn't go to plan, but you can't pinpoint it all on Amari'i Bell. But came here as a left back, turned into a left centre back, reliable for the most part, and he'll go with fond memories from Luton fans when he'll be someone that we follow for the rest of his career.
Well, maybe once the dust has settled on the debacle of the Hawthorns,
Yeah,
really, because
I think it has done, really. I mean,
people pinned a lot on that first half on him and Ted and Mengi, and I'm not going to try and dissuade you. I was there, I saw it. But yeah, in the rise that Amari'i Bell played a part in was very important. And he made that switch, improved for me when he went from a left back to a left centre half. I preferred him there. But ultimately he's now been part of 2 consecutive relegations, and his age is not going to favour him, and it hasn't. Obviously, he's gone. Matt Bloomfield wants energy and And also, he made the comment a while ago, really, that the, the the players that were injured a lot is they're going to have to look at that and see who they can go forward with, and maybe Amari's one of those that aren't. I mean, Amari's been flogged to death for like 5 years because he plays in the summer all the time for Jamaica. He's doing it right now, isn't he? So um, there's no surprise to me that he broke down with an injury. But yeah, I mean, 4 years, most of it good. Last season, not so much. But I think he will, in the fullness of time, I think he will go and, like you say, go with a good feeling of most people.
Yeah, time will be a good healer with regards to Amari Bell. Of that, I'm absolutely sure. Time doesn't need to heal for Pelly-Ruddock and Panzu, though, because, what a seventh. This guy's been 11 and a half years, more promotions than I can count, more bangers than I can count. His smile, energy, character. How many awards nights have we been to where he's lit up the floor and then the stage? It's just, yeah, it's hard to envisage Luton Town without Pelly-Ruddock and Panzer, and I know we've known this been coming, and we mentioned it, and we covered it back in January when he left for Rotherham, when it was pretty much obvious then that the writing was on the wall. But now it's actually official that we're never going to see Pelly in a Luton shirt again, apart from this testimonial that's seemingly on the horizon down the line, or that's been spoken about anyway. Um, it's sad to think that we have seen him for the last time in a Luton shirt, because he's given us so many wonderful memories. I mean, you can't even say the guy's name without smiling because of the great memories he's given you.
It's real end of an era stuff, isn't it? Because there were certain players, and he was one of them, that were reminding us of the better years, the going up years. Um, and now he's gone. I mean, we've got James Shea still there, but the likelihood is you won't see him very often, although he's a very good presence around the training ground and the club, and everyone's got a lot of time for him, even more so after his commentating duties in the last couple of games of the season. But, Pelly's been the lifeblood of this team for, well, certainly a decade, and then more diminished in the last 2 seasons, and, well, not really at all this last season that's gone, but he's just a legend of the club. I mean, he completed football, didn't he? There's an interesting stat that they put out: the most promoted teams in the EFL, and Luton have got 12 promotions in the Football League. Well, he's got a quarter of them all on his own. You know what I mean? So that shows you everything. He's made history. That will never, I'm convinced, will never be beaten again, playing in every division from the National League to the Premier League for the same club. I don't think that you'll see that again. You might get Wrexham getting promoted that does it, but in a very different way to Luton with Hollywood money. But you will never get another Pelly-Ruddock and Pantu. And hopefully, well, that testimony will happen. But hopefully, there's some more sort of memorial to him. Maybe when Premier League, Power Court, Premier League, living their dreamland. When Power Court comes about, I mean, he's immortalised in Luton Town Centre anyway. Whenever I get off Luton Central Station, he's on the side of the George II pub in a mural with Mick Arford, and that says everything. That can stay there forever, as far as I'm concerned, because it's a very good piece of art for one, but it just makes me happy.
Absolutely, yeah. To the mathematicians out there, a third of the promotions of Pelly's, not a quarter of the promotions. You're absolutely right. Don't do him a disservice.
Trust me to get the numbers wrong.
Yeah, 4 promotions, absolutely unbelievable. He's going to be missed, Pelly. Of course, he's going to be missed.
I sat there all smug, thinking I've got that fractions worked out, and maths is not my strong point.
Thankfully, video editing is much stronger a point than maths. Yeah, I know there are some people out there who thought because we got relegated that maybe Pelly would come back into the ranks and things. He's 31. He's the end of the present rather than the future, isn't he? I can understand why time is right. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up. I'm actually a little bit surprised that we've not heard where he's ending up now. Maybe that means he's got lots of options and he's taking his time to go through them all. But wherever it is, Pelly-Ruddock and Panzu will always be a part of Luton Town Football Club. That's for sure. And when the time is right, his testimonial will happen. And like you say, I'm sure there'll be some sort of commemoration at Power Court in some fashion. Maybe even that's where that testimonial happened. One other thing on the release list statement that came out, which has got a bit of controversy about it, Jimbo, is Tom Lockyer hasn't been given a new contract. The actual phrase was club captain Tom Lockyer is out of contract but will continue his rehabilitation at the Brace, completing his return to football programme after his recovery from ankle surgery. Now, what's muddied the waters is in the time since that statement. I don't know whether Tom's been misquoted or not, but there were articles that were doing the rounds where he said he was disappointed that he hasn't been offered a new
One article
contract.
from the Sun, and so you can well imagine, don't trust the Sun, don't buy the Sun.
Quite possibly, yeah. There are people out there who think he should automatically have been offered a new contract. But there are the same amount of people who think that the club have done the right thing. I'm in the latter camp. I think the club have done the right thing. That's not to say that I don't want Tom Lockyer around. I do. He's effectively had 18 months of sick pay if you're being ruthless about it. And we don't know if he can play football again. We hope he can play football again. He hopes he can play football again. Therefore, I hope he can play football again. But we don't know. He's still got to be checked off. He's still got to play, I think it's 2 under-21 games before he's fully checked off. He's still recovering from an ankle injury. He was on the coverage of the Wales-Liechtenstein game last night where he said that he had a good week of training this week, so he's obviously on the mend in that regard. So I would imagine in pre-season, somewhere along the line, he's going to play under-21 games, and I would imagine they would be Luton under-21 games if he's at the Brace, and those games are at the Brace behind closed doors. So I get the impression that the door isn't closed on Tom Lockyer, but the club have to put themselves first here, don't they, and make sure that he can play football again and is going to be able to complete a League One season before we offer a contract, because contracts are tight next season with regards to squad size and things like that. Were we to give Tom a contract and he go down again and he'd be unavailable for X period of time, we're not helping ourselves there. And I think the club have done the right thing here. I don't think the club have shut, well, they haven't shut the door, have they, if they're letting him train and finish his rehabilitation at the Brace, but I think on this situation they have to be 120% sure that they're getting Tom Lockyer, the footballer, back.
Yeah, I think the thing to focus on that initial statement from the club anyway is that he is training at the Brace and will complete his rehabilitation. If they were not going to even think about that, maybe that relationship wouldn't be there. I'd like to think it would be, because they gave a contract to James Shea when he had his big injury and he's still at the club. But this is a different kettle of fish. James Shea had a physical ligament injury, didn't he? But this Tom Lockyer says himself, he effectively died for 2 minutes and 40 seconds. So there's a lot more checks and balances to get through to get him back on the pitch, which I hope. And then if he proves he can, then I think that then there's a conversation, isn't it? And then probably will be a deal to be had. And yeah, I've heard all those noises about training and getting back and having to play under 21 games. I think what you're saying might be a good reason to get yourself down to Topfield for that hitching game for the under 21s. You never know, you might see Tom Lockyer. I don't have any inside info on that, but decent night out anyway, pre-season down Topfield. But I want to see him back in the squad, in the club. I think he'd be more than capable, regardless of 18 months, if he can prove his fitness, more than capable of playing in League One, and whether that's a full role or just part of the squad and he gets on as a sub or something like that, and we'll see. But I think the thing to focus on is that, and not necessarily whatever the Sun said.
Yeah, I don't think there's a club in football who would give him a contract until he's been passed good to go, is there? I mean, it's negligent to your own business, really, if you do that. That's all the outs from the playing point of view. But we lost a director over the last month or so in Stephen Brown, who Luton fans have to be really indebted to. There is no football club without Stephen Brown. Let's put it as black and as clear as day as that, because he was a massive part of 2020 in the inauguration of it, and he has been right the way through. Plenty of Luton fans out there will know Stephen from being the author of the best programme notes that were ever written, and I say that with a writer of programme notes alongside me, but even Jimbo won't disagree with that one. But what he's given the club throughout the 15, coming up to 20 years nearly, service with the board is indisputable, really. He'll definitely be missed. But he's another one who's played a massive part in our history.
Yeah, in all my program notes, I've never been able to adequately explain what Watford are with every single letter of every sentence. So kudos to that. But you're talking about end of an era. Then this is also one. Obviously, it won't be that focused on because everybody looks on the pitch, but he's been there, ever present. You could always see him. He's got his hat on. That you could pick him out from that um, in the executive boxes, and I think it's a real shame, really, because I mean he's still a shareholder, isn't he? But he's still not going to be on the board, so I don't know what's gone on there. I know he's not in the country all the time, so maybe that is a situation that they've looked at and realised that probably somebody needs to be there more available. I don't know. I'd love to know because there's shake-ups all over the place, isn't there? Boardroom, recruitment team, you're looking for the squad shake-up now, but it's essentially what was needed, and there's going to have to be some ruthless decisions. Whether that's one, I don't know, but you can't get relegated twice in a row and carry on regardless of the same sort of situation. You've got to clear the decks and start again. And it will be a new era from everything really, because we're not necessarily back to square one, but we're closer to it than we dared think we would be. So it's a shame. And obviously Mike Herrick, we got the news that he left when the accounts came out as well. So that's two of the long-serving board members that aren't there anymore, and so yeah, we'll see on that. I think the fans for sure are crying out for information, aren't they? And we've got that this Friday with the recruitment stuff. So keep that ticking along and let people know what's going on a bit more. Some people want too much information, don't they? They want everything, which you aren't going to get as much as I'd love it, but you aren't. And we'll see. Hopefully, this is a dawn of a new era.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. That's not the end of players leaving, is it? It was mentioned in the release list that talks are going on with players about their futures. I think it's pretty obvious. You only have to have your eyes and ears open in the media world at the minute. That Thomas Kaminski doesn't want to play in League One. Fair enough. Um, it would be a huge surprise if he's here on August 2nd. And like you said earlier in the podcast, we've got Jack Walton in already as his replacement. I would fully expect Thomas Kaminski to leave this club. I'd fully expect Ted and Mengi to leave. I'd fully expect Alfie Doughty to leave. And then I'd fully expect some of the injury-prone players. Mads Anderson, been mentioned that Malmo are interested in him. Marvelous Nakamba, Daiki Hashioka, maybe even a Reece Burke, all to leave the club in some way, shape or form. Shandon Baptiste would be another one potentially in line with that because, well, Matt didn't use them. Okay, he used Baptiste when Baptiste was fit and he used Burke when Burke was fit. The rest of the injury ones, I mean, Marvelous really came off the bench for about 5 minutes, I think it was, in one of the games. Hashioka made the bench but didn't come off of it. Mads Anderson hasn't been seen since that Watford debacle. I don't think we are giving away any sort of secrets or anything that they're the players that Luton are looking at getting rid of because they just don't fit into Matt's style of play, do they? Matt, you have to be energetic, you have to be robust, you have to be powerful, and you have to be pacey. And, Marvelous has given us brilliant service. He's the catalyst and the reason why we had Premier League football season. But that was, by the end of this coming season, that'll be 3 years ago, and time has just caught up with him, hasn't he? Father Time has come and tapped him on the shoulder.
Yeah, and I think that's the case a lot across the squad, really. In the days and the weeks since what happened and at the Hawthorns, and really sort of trying to assess the whole season, I'm coming more around to this idea that there were a whole load of players that were reaching their peak to get us to the Premier League, and then they went above and beyond to try and keep us in the Premier League, and that didn't happen. Which was no shade on anybody. That we've done better than the other clubs this season that's spent a lot more money, so it vindicates that. And but there's only there's a peak that you can get to, isn't there? And after that is a drop off. The drop off was ridiculous this season. I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of it, but that to me would be sort of a reason, without knowing the details, a theory that I'd run with, that would be the case. And then you've got a bunch of players there that might fit into that. And I think Marvellous Nakamba obviously is one. Mads didn't really get a look in at all, and I fully expect he'll be going. The one that might be an anomaly there would be Reece Burke, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, and that's what no information does to you. But when the club haven't signed anyone and they put out Reece Burke appreciation posts all one day last week, then you're sort of thinking, is he going to stay? Because other than the fact that he's an injury-prone player, he's the best defender. I think everybody acknowledges that. And he came from League One when we signed him. He's more than capable if he can keep himself fit. So that would be one perhaps that you think might stay. And I think Shandon Baptiste might be difficult to move on. I mean, he's barely played 60 games in his professional career, I think, and he's been injured a lot. Who's going to want to take him, really? And he's got a contract. You can see him wanting to stay for that. Listen, if he can keep himself fit, which is quite difficult, there's a player there. But that's the difficult thing. The rest of them, I think that you'd probably be able to. You've probably seen the last of them.
Yeah, and then you've got people like Alfie Doughty, who's going to have his suitors. He's way too good for League One, isn't he? I mean, even when we were in the Championship, there was talk about him going to the Premier League. Obviously, the same talk was happening about Elijah. That won't happen this summer because of his injury. But you've got others, you know, I mean, as much as we want to keep Crust Makosso, he's going to be hard to keep in League One because he looks a superstar in waiting. The good thing is him and Doughty are both under contract, so we call the shots. And then you've got Tello Asgard, who Mr. Norway manager has got loose lips, hasn't he, at the minute, and had the audacity to say that, you know, he's got to leave Luton if he wants to play in the World Cup and then pick him in his Norway squad and not play him last night. So wind your neck in, pal. But, you know, he's going to be another one who, you know, look, doing the rounds. There's lots of rumours, Stoke and a couple of other Championship clubs, and, you know, he's come out, hasn't he, and he said he doesn't know if his future's at Luton, which I'm okay with. I don't have a problem with that. I'd much rather that than he say, yeah, I'm definitely going to be a Luton player on August 2nd and then bugger off a week later, like, you know, has happened in the past. I understand the reasons for playing it with a straight bat, and that's not a problem with regards to me at all. But if he is to leave, we're the ones in control of the shots. He's literally just signed a contract with us not even 6 months ago. Anyone who wants to get him out of this football club is going to have to pay double what we paid for him, because that's how key and integral he is to our side.
Yeah, for me, I think that Luton hold the cards on all this, on those players that you mentioned, those three, because they've signed them, they've got them on contracts, they're not desperately in need of the money. You've still got parachute payments, got even more, 4.5 million quid extra for slipping into League One, which would rather still be in the Championship, but it's a nice little see you later send-off, isn't it?
Sounds like a few more quid will come our way when Rob Edwards is appointed somewhere this summer as well, and he will be, by all accounts. He's up amongst the bookies' favourites for literally every Football League job at the moment, so he's going to get something.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, transfers are complicated, aren't they? But the layperson can look at it quite rightly and form a decent argument to say, well, look, in January, Luton tried to get Richard Kone, and the bids went up and up to 12 million, which was the reported, wasn't it? And yeah, strikers go for more money than anyone else because they're the star men that put the goals in. But if he was a League One player and Luton prepared to pay 12 million, if you want Tello Asgard and Alfie Doughty are both got at least 2 years on their contracts, I would imagine Doughty's got a little bit more. They said it was a long-term contract. Flash the cash. That's the only way it's going to get him out. So, you know, you're going to have to accept a little bit of give and take. We've slipped into the third division, and players aren't necessarily going to want to play there. Now, listen, Tello Asgard was there in January. He's only had a little taste of the Championship, and you're right. He sat on the bench against Italy last night. And yeah, Norway beat Italy in the first qualifier So they'll have a sniff and thinking they can get to the World Cup, but they haven't been in the World Cup since 1998. So they've still got to get there. So whether that happens, I don't know. But I think Solbakken's shown his hand a little bit to Tello Asgard, and players probably don't think this way like we do. They're very optimistic, think, oh, I'll do the business and get in. But I'm saying you're not going to get into that first team. Even if you get qualified to the World Cup, whether you play in League One or the Championship, there's players in there that play in first divisions of their respective countries, wherever they are, and they're going to get in front of you. So bide your time, fire Luton to promotion, and find yourself a home, and people will love you. That would be my take on it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Listen, if Tello Asgard scores 15 goals in League One this season, and he was only one shy of that halfway through a season for Wigan last season, so there's every reason to think he can, and he puts 10 assists on top of that in League One and Luton get promoted, there's absolutely no way Tello Asgard doesn't go to the World Cup. Now, whether he's a starter in the World Cup, well, that'll depend on the injuries to the others, because Asgard can be playing in any division he likes, but he ain't getting in a team ahead of Martin Odegaard, and I love Asgard, but that's just fact. He isn't getting in a team ahead of Erling Haaland, not getting in it ahead of Sorloth at Atletico Madrid, like you just mentioned, Oscar Bob, who's at Man City. It's just the way it is. But if they have some injuries, then he might get into the side, but he can get into that squad still at Luton, that's for sure. And I hope we keep him, because, as I've said plenty of times on this podcast, the January signings have really given me encouragement. I wish that they were encouraging me ahead of a championship season. That's not the case, and we've got to just accept that and move on and get ready and go again in League One. But all of those players that we signed in January, all of them made an impact that says to me that with more sprinkled around them in this coming transfer window, that we can have a really, really good side in League One. Does that mean that we're going to get promoted? No, of course it doesn't. It's a bloody hard league. We needed to go on a 28-game unbeaten run to get out of the sort of thing the last time that we was in it. It is a tough league, but there isn't a Birmingham in this league. There isn't going to be no one who's spending 50, 60, 70 million quid on their squad this season. There isn't a Wrexham in this league who've got the spending capacity.
Which is probably why the bookies have put Luton as favourites, really, because they're seeing the money they're coming down with and the players that they've currently got, and not those big teams or big spending teams. So that will be a factor in that.
Yeah, exactly. And, also Luton are a pretty popular side in amongst the football world at the moment, aren't they? They've been in the high-profile Premier League, and that bookmakers aren't going to offer odds that people might back, without knowing the ins and outs of it, and prepared to take an absolute battering in terms of the odds. For example, a team that's only got 1,000 followers is going to have much higher odds than a team that's got 1 million followers, because it's much more likely that that team with 1 million followers gets more support than the team with the 1,000 followers. But what it is a competitive league, and we've shown with those with those January signings that we can be more than competitive in the league above. So therefore, using logic, and I know logic and football don't always go together, but using that logic, just putting some stardust in and around it, and one or two players maybe coming back to form that we didn't have at the end of last season. Morris in particular, he was there in body, wasn't he? But the working parts of him weren't really going as we know that he can, and one or two others sort of in there as well. And I think we have the makings of a strong squad in League One that should be at the top end. I look at Wickham in those playoffs, and it's wrong of me to judge them in the playoffs, but it's the only time I've seen Wickham. Bearing in mind that this was still a Matt Bloomfield Wickham by and large, I would say man for man, the Luton team that's going to go out on the 2nd of August is infinitely better than the one that Wickham fielded against Charlton in the playoffs. And if he got Wickham into second place again, there's no reason why we can't be in and around that position, assuming he is given the back in the transfer market, which I absolutely think he will be. They've not made all these recruitment changes to the backroom staff to just say, no, we're not signing no players now. That's not how it is. Assuming he can get rid of all the ones he doesn't want. And to be honest, even if he can't, he can still go forward without them. We've had Victor Moses on the books. He hasn't, since he saw him against Preston, it's had nothing to do with him. If we have to carry 2 or 3 of those around, because we can't get rid of them, then so be it. But as long as he's got the players that he wants in there, I'm kind of comfortable with where we are, Jimbo. I wouldn't say I'm looking forward to new season yet. I will be when it comes around. Don't get me wrong. I'm still very much in a I can't believe we've come out of the Championship kind of mode at the minute.
Yeah.
But once these signings start happening, and we're confident that the signings will happen, and we have to be patient, and they're going to go right the way till the end of August. Until you shut the transfer window the day before the season starts, transfers are going to happen until the end of August. Hopefully, as many as possible are in before pre-season starts, which would be last week of this month. Probably going to do 2 weeks training before that. Boreham Wood friendly, aren't they? So last week of this month. So even then, you've still got 2.5 weeks before that happens. I'm confident that we'll be in a decent enough position, because that's the thing now, isn't it? As if we look ahead now, Jimbo, the big issue that Luton fans had last season, we was not ready to play that Burnley game. You know, there might have been mitigating factors. There've been all sorts of hints at mitigating factors. No one's actually come out and said actually what those factors were. Okay, we knew that we had a few injuries at the time, but there was none of it made a lot of sense, did it? There was hardly a single pre-season game in front of supporters. There were very, very few pre-season games at all, and that is a concern of mine again, I have to say. They've only announced 4 pre-season games, and we're led to believe there's going to be one in Slovenia too. That doesn't strike me as a lot of pre-season games, albeit I understand the season starts a week earlier this season, so that would have wiped out. We would have had a pre-season game on August the 2nd if we were in the Championships. That's taken one of those out. But I was expecting to see a pre-season schedule, Jimbo, of Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday for a month, playing the Barnets, the Hitchins. Okay, I know the under-21s playing the Hitchin, but, the Cambridges, the local sides that are in leagues below us, like we did when we were rising through the leagues. But now we've got to be ready to hit the ground running on August 2nd. We've got to make our signings. Most of those got to be in place before they go to Slovenia. Otherwise, it doesn't make much sense in going to Slovenia. They go there so that the signings can be incorporated in a working environment. They've got to come back from Slovenia a hell of a lot fitter than they were last season. And I think Matt's comments throughout the season, we can take as a guarantee that that will happen at the very least. But we've just got to be ready for the first weekend in August now. Not the first weekend in October, first weekend in August. I looked at League One over the last 2 seasons, and the teams that were setting the pace were the teams that finished with the pace. And that's what we've got to do. If we're relying on a 28-game unbeaten run like the last time we were in it, and I understand that we were coming up and there were no expectations to go up, you can't rely on 28-game unbeaten runs. They just don't happen very often, and it was just an incredible, incredible run that it did. We have to be up with the pace. I'm not saying we have to be top of the league from week 1 to week 46, but you have to be in the top 6, top 8 throughout. You don't catch up in this league.
No, it's not like the Championship where everyone beats everyone. It's a bit bonkers. There's front runners and they stay there as front runners, as our last season showed. You're right, different circumstances came up, no expectation, and blitzed it. And even then, we weren't promoted until the very end of the season, because there were 3 or 4 teams that were all doing the same, and that seems to be the case. There will be strong sides again. I know that obviously Leyton Orient got beaten in the final, but they've got some backing. Some loan players came in. They'll have to go out and sort that out as well. But I think Charlton getting out of that division might be helpful, and fair play to Nathan Jones. He's also since managed to get himself a 5-year contract after
His agent absolutely loved those Cardiff talks, didn't he?
Yeah, fair play to him. Although, I would imagine there'll be some Luton fans out there thinking, putting 2 and 2 together, and whether it equals 4 or 5, thinking Nathan Jones side Alfie Doughty. Alfie Doughty's played for them before. Maybe there'd be something there. I'd be very surprised, very, very surprised if there isn't some interest from Nathan and Charlton in some Luton players there, but we'll wait and see on that one. But yeah, there's not huge clubs. Charlton should be at least a Championship side, and but then again, I think we were probably thinking this last season, and the expectation was the same again last season, that we'd go straight back up. So until we see action, until we see how it's going to be, I think there will be some question marks over everything, really. And I think that's quite right, because everybody's really quite stung by what happened It shouldn't have. And the one thing to do is start off straight away like an absolute steam train. We've got to be the Burnley this season, like Burnley were against us. You know, they absolutely mullered us 4-1 on the opening night of the season. And I'm not saying we have to go and smash somebody 4-1, but we have to set our stall out as a statement of intent there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the thing that we have to do in August, regardless of results, the thing we have to do in August is we have to show that we've got a winning mentality now, that we've ditched that losing mentality, that if something can go wrong, it will go wrong, that weak part of part of us whenever we're attacked and we don't like it.
Which re-emerged at the Hawthorn, but for 10 games, we had it.
Yeah.
We were like, yeah, well, we're going to go away to you and beat you 1-0. We're going to not concede much, and we're going to carry a threat. And it was theirs, which makes the Hawthorns so mind-blowingly stupid as to how that happened. Or I don't know.
Oh,
It
we've
would be an
got to show that
inquest
we've
over it.
got rid of that from our
Yeah,
DNA.
yeah.
Whatever the results are, if there's a couple of 1-1 draws early doors in August, but they're battling 1-1 draws or they're front foot 1-1 draws like Middlesbrough at home and the ball just wouldn't go in the back of the net. I know that was 0-0, but take my point. Leeds, let's use Leeds as a better example. If they've some of them 1-1 draws, then that's fine. But what we can't see is a defence that's going to erode the very second it's attacked, because that just can't happen no more. We've had 2 seasons of that. That has to be a thing of the past. And then we need to go and show that we're not just going to create chances in League One. We're going to put chances into the back of the net in League One. And if we do that, we'll be absolutely fine. We created 15, 20, 25 chances a game at home under Matt last season at times. Sheffield United were seconds away from playing Premier League football, going to extra time to play Premier League football. We absolutely battered them under Matt. Middlesbrough gave them an absolute hiding. Coventry were seconds away from going to penalty shootout to get to Wembley again. Gave them a good battering. Okay, I know they were down to 10 men. But it's all there, but we've just got to get rid of that devil on our shoulder that appears far too often, that we just disintegrate when we're under pressure. Like you
Yeah.
say, we think we've got rid of it. We have to absolutely 100% do some feng shui in a training ground and whatever it is that we need to do. Go down the Ian Holloway route of getting his missus in to sort out the ghosts and all of that nonsense. We have to make sure that come August the 2nd, that devil's buggered off.
Well, that's what I mean. I think that we had the evidence there that it was for 10 games, which nobody can understand what happened at the Hawthorns. You can say how it happened, but you don't say why. We don't know. There were 10 games there when, right, Matt Bloomfield get a tune out of these players that he's currently got, sort of all pinned on those January signings. So we hope they stay. Obviously, Tello Asgard's been in the news, really. I'm with you. Just keep your mouth shut, Norway man, the coach. But they've got a spine there of a team that can be really good. Now, part of that will rely on Christ Makoso, and I'd be very surprised if there's not suitors for him. And I think out of all of them, really, he's endeared himself so much to the fans. If he was to go, that would be a bit of a blow. There's been no rumours about it so far, but I'd be very surprised because he is different gravy, really, particularly for this division. He can comfortably play in the Championship. He's shown that. But say they keep that spine of the January the players, then like you say, it's just sprinkling some stardust all over the other areas and finding somebody that can score goals, or getting a proper summer in Carlton and he suddenly becomes the Carlton that got us up to the Premier League. I don't know. Maybe he's part of that group that hit their peak to get to the Premier League and now not so, because let's face it, you look at all his other seasons, other teams, he's sort of around the 10 goal mark for all of them. He had an exceptional season in the Championship for Luton to get them up, and I don't know. We'll wait and see. But the fact that they tried to get Coney in January says to me that they know that they need more goals, and the stats and the facts of that run, as good as it was, there weren't enough goals. So that would be the area that people will be looking to, I think.
Yep. Interesting couple of weeks, 3 weeks ahead for the Town. Obviously, transfer window is open, it closes, then it will reopen again. We're expecting Cal Naismith to be announced somewhere along the line, just based on that statement that came out. He's officially a Bristol City player until June the 30th, so maybe that's not announced until after then. But presumably he's going to be in for pre-season training, so I would have thought he'll be announced at some point. They usually wait and do videos, don't they? He'll have been on holiday. I'm just putting two and two together. I'm not sure if I'll come up with 4 or 5, but I'm pretty sure we're going to see Karen Naismith again. And then, of course, 26th of June, we find out who, where, when, and why we're playing everyone. And the fixtures come out 12 p.m. that day. And we'll be back in here to reflect on the fixtures ahead of season in League One, Jimbo.
We will, although not very long in this actual place. If you're watching on video in this studio, as I said at the beginning, if you can help us out there, we're looking for a new home, but the show will go on. There will be a season 9. We are somewhat gluttons for punishment, aren't we?
We are. We're going to carry on because we want to talk about winning some football matches, and that's what we'll carry on regardless. Win, lose, or draw, we will be here every step of the way. That's pretty much it for this episode of the podcast. Let us know your thoughts. Are you more content? Are you happy with the changes that have happened to the backroom staff? What did you make of the release list? I know plenty of people want to see more names, and I'm pretty confident that you will do once everything clicks into full swing. As I say, people will have been on holiday after that season. I think everyone needed a holiday after the way that season ended, didn't they? Let us know your thoughts. Who would you like to see come into the club and things like that? And we'll discuss it all next time we are back in the studio, which, unless something majorly huge happens, which we're not really expecting, are we? Unless something major happens, the next time we'll be back in here is to reflect on the fixtures, and then we'll cover everything that's happened between then and now in that podcast.
One other slight request as well, and ask of you is that you'll have heard of you heard our theme tune. Obviously, that's amazing. We're going to keep that going, but it used to, at the beginning of the season, regular listeners and watchers will remember, had some commentary over it from certain people. It started off with Rob Edwards. We had to get rid of that. What commentary would you like to see on that? Obviously, it has to be short clips of something. What something would you like to see on that? I'd be interested to know if we can get your views on that so we can freshen it up for the new season.
No, James Shea's commentary is not going on it. Not that particular piece of commentary, anyway.
Yeah, it'd be hard to get that. Also, we have to be aware of the rights and things. But let's say if it happened in a press conference, I was there, so I've got the recordings of those, that sort of thing. But suggest something if you've got it in mind. Could be something off the cuff we might be able to add in there. But it certainly needs a refresh from where we used to be. But then doesn't everything?
Yep, that's it for this episode of the podcast then. Thanks for watching, listening, however it is that you've consumed this podcast. We will do more throughout the summer, but we'll get back to being completely regular again as the season approaches. We are going to have some time off. We needed it after last season, and to be fair, you guys don't want to keep on listening to us banging on. Thanks to the Barber Club and the Lower Level in Luton for hosting our studio as always, to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for the designs that you see on set. Until next time, which, as I say, will be in and around that fixture release date, from Jimbo and myself, come on you atters, let's have a busy few weeks, please.